Hey guys, I didn't have a very good intro for any of these videos, so just from the top I'm gonna record a little something where I kind of talk about it a little bit better than I did. So in this series of videos, I'm gonna be talking about Marvel characters I'd like to see in the game, Marvel Rivals. I get into some of their builds I'd like to see, and an outfit I'd like to see. I kind of talk about that in each one of these videos, but I feel like I did a better job here than in my anxious mess of trying to record and just come up with it off the top of my head. So yeah, hope you enjoy the video. Okay, since I don't really have like a introduction I'm like working with, we're just gonna kind of dive into this video, and I'll probably figure something else out later for intros, but not today. So this video is mainly going to consist of Vanguard, or the heavy class of characters, and this is going to be a, I think, 4-part series. I have it as right now. Who knows, I might come back to this series later. But just to start this off, I want to get some characters out of the way that I don't want to see in the games. Not because I don't like these characters, but just because I feel like they don't really fit. And you'll understand why, is because they're like copycat characters. And without talking about this too much, put simply, it's like they're just way too similar to characters we have in the game. Like, one example I have is like other spider people. There are some exceptions, I'll get to those in a future video. But characters like Spider-Punk, Spider-Gwen, Noir, Kane, all those where it's like they're kind of like Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but with a fresh coat of paint and different character attributes. But in terms of how they would play, I don't see how you could change it enough to excuse their inclusion. The same thing with like Wolverine's kids, other Captain America ripoffs. This would be like Red Guardian, US Agent, Captain Britain, those ones. And to kind of backpedal onto Wolverine's kids, I'm talking about like X-23, Honey Badger, Dakin, those ones where it's basically like, oh yeah, the Wolverine, except one's edgy, the other, and then two of them are girls. Cool. But yeah, that's my big thing, is I don't want characters like that where they're kind of just copy pastes with slight changes. It just doesn't feel like they would necessarily fit. But those are the main things I could think of. I do have some rules for the series. I will more than likely point you back to this video in future videos to like look over the rules if you don't like something. But at the beginning of each character, I will explain why I think the character fits or why I want them in the game. I will take inspiration from some of the characters while also changing it slightly to fit the character. So this would be like how I will use Hulk's jump ability with some other characters. I use I don't have a good example right now, but pretty much use other characters' abilities and attacks, but slightly tweak them to fit a different character. And my biggest rule is I can't just copy a character in the game. It's the exact reason why I don't want copycats. I can't say that I want X-23 in the game, but just say, oh yeah, she plays exactly like Wolverine. That kind of defeats the purpose of this series. Each character will have a basic attack, 2 abilities, and an ultimate, since that's generally the basic kit of each character in the game. And I won't be talking about passives or team abilities, just because I found that took way too long and I didn't have enough unique ideas. I won't talk about characters that are either confirmed, I have no doubt are going to be added, I don't think are unique enough, or I just didn't think of. So if you were like, oh, why did he never talk about Kraven? I did think about him, I just couldn't really, in my mind, do a good build for him, and I didn't want to do the character, I didn't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't want to disservice, that's the word I'm looking for, disservice the character. But yeah, so if there's at any point that you comment like, oh, why didn't you talk about the Silver Surfer? I couldn't really think of anything, to be honest with you. Or if you bring up some other like super niche character like, oh, why didn't you talk about the Wall? First off, if you know who the Wall is, good for you. But also, I probably didn't think about him when making these lists. But yeah, so just keep that in your mind as I'm going through these. And as an added bonus for each character that I do talk about, I will talk about the day one cosmetics for each of these characters. This is like how when Ultron was released, he got his Extron cosmetic. When Mr. Fantastic was released, he got his what's his name? The Maker skin, and just kind of stuff like that. So with that, let's just get right into it and start it. I'm so sorry I'm stuttering so much. Abomination, Emil Blonsky, and of course he's a Vanguard, because that's what this video is about. Anyways, to get into it, although I did talk about copycats, and you could probably make the argument for Abomination being a copycat of the Hulk, I do feel like there's enough difference there where you could excuse his inclusion. And biggest thing with that is, like, Hulk in game, he's not exactly a super defensive, since obviously he's a Vanguard, but he has abilities like Shield, Freeze, where you could argue they could be used very evasively and to defend your teammates. I want Abomination to be the almost exact opposite, where it's like, you just get right in there and you get after them. That's kind of what I want Abomination to be. And for like some mobility, I won't talk about this for all of them because it doesn't always fit with all of them. But specifically for Emil, I either want him to have Hulk's incredible leap, which is that like long jump he does, or I want him to have Captain America's like leading dash, that sprint he has, just because it kind of fits them both. He's not only a Hulk but a super soldier, so I feel like having either or, that could really work. But I feel like he would only be able to have one, since if he had both, it would kind of be, I wouldn't say overpowered, but it's just, he doesn't need both. And a big difference between him and Hulk is Hulk transforms from Bruce to the Hulk, but Emil, specifically in the comics, because we're not talking about She-Hulk, because we all know you do not like She-Hulk. I don't like She-Hulk, so you don't like She-Hulk. That's how the internet works. Oh boy, I can't wait for some people to be like, yeah, you didn't have to drone on about that. I'm sorry. But Emil doesn't do the entire transformation thing. He's just stuck as Abomination, as far as I know. If you have like comic numbers where he does transform back and forth freely, not where he's like forcibly transformed back and he can't transform again or something like that, I'm not counting that. I'm speaking strictly as like Hulk can go to and from Bruce. It's a whole entire transformation thing. It doesn't just stop. Okay, now that I have that out of the way, let's talk about his basic attack, which is very simple. He's just more or less going to have like the big punches that Hulk does, which you could say is lazy, but if you look at the amount of characters that just punch, you'd more than likely be surprised, and it just kind of fits Abomination, you know? So without really talking more about that, because like I said, I feel like it's very self-explanatory, his first ability is where he would get a damage reduction, meaning reduction, but a damage reduction of about 15%. You notice I really like that, and 10% because they're low enough where it doesn't feel extreme, but it's also high enough where you can definitely feel the difference. But he'll take less damage of about 15%, and his attack speed, in other words, he'll be able to punch faster, of about 10%. I just kind of thought that would help with his more so aggressive playstyle I was thinking of, and I don't know, I just thought it'd be cool. And as for his second ability, I want him to have kind of like a damage buff of around 10 to 15%, since, once again, it boosts it, but not so much where it's like, oh my god, he's broken, and stuff like that. I just kind of want him to have that little bit of a buff. And I want him to have a very short period where he adds on poison damage due to like radiation. You could have like an entire thing where he kind of does like the Wolverine Raw thing, except like his body kind of glows green. You're gonna notice I do that a lot. It's a speech thing for me. But his body glows green, and he does a slight bit of poison damage due to like radiation or something like that. And I imagine poison works kind of like how fire damage, if you stand in it, it'll do slight damage. But unlike fire where you can just like get out of it, this one kind of sticks with you for about 2-3 seconds, depending on whatever you think is fair. And as for an ultimate, I'll be honest, a lot of these ultimates I think of like pure cool factor, and not so much like a, oh, how would this work in the game? I kind of do, but 9 times out of 10 it's just kind of like, okay, would this look cool? And with this, he gets a slight steady health regen and moves a little bit faster. And I'm pretty sure in 9 times out of 10, all ultimates, you get at least a little bit of health regen, so that's kind of why I did that. And when he moves faster, he's more or less running at people, and he grabs someone, whoever he first like encounters, jumping straight upward and slamming down to the ground, causing a lot of damage to that individual and to anyone that's kind of in a sphere around them. There'll be slight knockback. The closer you are, the more knockback there is and the more damage, but it's a lot smaller than the person he slams into the ground. Again, I just did this because it sounded really cool and I could see it working in the game. And as for his day 1 cosmetic, there's a character known as General 14s, I think that's how you pronounce his name, when he was Abomination. This is the one that you might see, it has like hands all around his face. It's kind of weird. And there's a version that has 2 faces. That's kind of the one I'm going for. I'll put like a graphic above the original comic design right here so you can see like what I'm talking about. But I just thought this would be kind of cool and fitting with a lot of the like, at least like Mr. Fantastic where he has, dang it, I already forgot his name. The Unlimited Mr. Fantastic. I keep wanting to call him the leader, but that's not his name at all. I literally just said it 2 seconds ago. I am so sorry. I'm so forgetful. But you know, kind of like that, where it's just an alternate version of them. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, aka the Red Hulk. Again, Vanguard, because Vanguard video. And I'll be honest, I am so happy that during the Captain America Brave New World thing, when they were like, oh, you're gonna get a promotional thing when you get the game, and so many people were like, oh, it's gonna be Red Hulk. I'm like, please God, no. And I'm so happy they didn't do that, because that'd be such a waste for this character, because again, he doesn't work like the Hulk does, at least in the comics. Marvel's doing their own thing. I'll probably make a video on that entire situation later, but at least in the comics, he isn't the Hulk. He is a Hulk, but he doesn't work the same. And yeah, hold on, I'll probably edit this out, but this time I will allow him to like change from Ross to Red Hulk and backwards, kind of like how Hulk does, just because once again he can do that. And again, I want to give him like Hulk's incredible leap, since he is a Hulk. That is my phone. I am so sorry. Let me mute this real quick. But yeah, as for Ross's basic attack, and this is a little bit different because I'll be talking about Ross and Red Hulk, because it'll be similar to Bruce and then Hulk, where they have 2 different abilities and basic attacks. So that's kind of what we're working with. So as for Ross's basic attack, I came up with a cool little name for it called Thunderbolt. And since he's a general, I'm thinking about giving him like a real gun, unlike Bruce, who has just a little ray gun. He just has like a gun, kind of like how Punisher's is, except he only gets the one, and it fires a little bit slower, but it does heavier attack. And as for Red Hulk, once he transforms, you're gonna have to hear me out on this, but give him a big gun. I have the idea of like while he's transforming, the gun does like a cool like nanotech thing where it like gets bigger, and you can kind of see it like expand in bits, just kind of go like, ignore my sound effects, but you know, it just kind of expands to fit his body, and then he takes a scope off his belt and slams it on. That would be cool. But similar to before, where it's like, oh, it's kind of like the Punisher, except it fires slower. This one fires pretty slow, but its attack damage is a lot higher. So I don't know exactly how I could describe this. It's like, man, I don't know gun names, but just imagine kind of like going tun 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 and doing a lot of damage to enemies. So it gives them a good chance to like get around it, but it also, if they do get hit, causes a good bit of damage. Now, as for Ross's ability, I'm gonna kind of go back and forth a little bit. But as for Ross's ability, I am debating about just giving him a smoke grenade like Punisher, but instead I'm thinking about giving him an AoE tool that boosts player speed by about 25% within specifically that area. I don't know what it would look like, but I think the concept is kind of fun, where it's like he sets something up, maybe just like throws it on the ground, and then there's just a little bit of an area where people are a little bit faster. I don't know if that really fits, but it's just one of those things that I think is a fun concept. You'll notice that once again, even with like ultimates, I think it's just because it's a fun concept, I'll do something. But now as for Red Hulk's first ability, let's give his bullets a little bit of a buff, where they add in burning damage, similar to Johnny's fire, where once again they add in a little bit of fire damage, and it kind of works like poison, except I don't know, a little bit faster. I don't know. Once again, I haven't really thought about how this would work, but I just kind of thought like, oh, this would be cool. But this buff only kind of lasts for about 10 seconds. As for his second ability, he stomps the ground, causing enemies within about a 3 meter. And yes, I did Google what meters were, because I only speak in feet, because I'm a filthy American. And but an area around him where there's kind of like a knockback. So unlike the Thing, where he has one that kind of stuns enemies, his like strictly knocks people back from around him. This could be good for like if you're being surrounded by enemies, you just stomp the ground, people fly backwards. And yeah, no, once again, I just thought it'd be a cool concept. Now, as for his ultimate, unlike the Hulk who gets stronger the angrier he gets, Red Hulk gets hotter. And not in like the sexy way, but like the physical hot. So again, let's give him a buff of strength about 10% with a burn effect that lasts for about 5 seconds after being hit with the... Oh man, I did think this out. Guys, I'm smart. But that has a, once again, burn effect. But yeah, basically just kind of buff him. Probably give him some bigger health regen. Again, just kind of like typical with that. And it basically just being a much better version of his first ability. Once again, is it the best idea? I don't know, probably not. But it's just an idea. And as for a cosmetic, I'd like to have him in a like general outfit. I don't really think it's like the biggest change to his character as compared to like I imagine him in like a tank top, black tank top, stuff like that. And then you just kind of switch it out for his green general uniform. You know? It's simple, but I feel like it'd get the point across. Absorbing Man, aka Carl Creel. And again, Vanguard. I'm probably going to stop bringing that up in this video just because it feels repetitive. So, Absorbing Man. I'm not sure how many people have really heard of him. Always whenever I think of Absorbing Man, I think of the, 2005 Hulk movie? I think that's when that movie came out. But when he was Hulk's dad, that's always the version I think of. But I think it'd just be a super cool concept for a character that can like transform his body into different materials. And typically in the comics, he uses a like wrecking ball kind of thing. So for his basic attack, I have it so like he swings his wrecking ball around with about a medium range. It's close to like Mr. Fantastic's arm stretch out ability. It's about that range, but he kind of just like swings it forward and then drags it back, then swings it forward, drags it back, and it kind of goes in like an X, almost like an infinity sign motion, I guess. Or it's like he'll just swing it like that. You can't see me, but I'm like doing the motion with my arms. But yeah, I just think that'd be cool. And as for his first ability, he turns his body completely to steel, reducing damage intake. It kind of works like how Emma Frost's diamond form works, except it's a lot shorter and his moveset doesn't change. It's just basically like a damage reduction buff, and increases damage a little bit for about 10 seconds because, you know, everything's steel now instead of like stone or whatever it was. And again, nothing really changes. He just kind of swings this thing around and it hurts a lot more now. And as for his second ability, he blocks with his arms, turning them into steel, and gets a shield for about 300 hit points. So it kind of works like how Captain America's shield worked, all that other stuff, where it's basically just him putting his arms up in front of himself in either like I kind of imagine it just being like they're side by side parallel with each other, and he like holds them up in front of himself and just kind of reduces damage coming from the front. You can still shoot him from the back, but anything in front of him is just kind of blocked. And again, 300 hit points. And as for his ultimate, Absorbing Man starts to swing his wrecking ball in a huge circle, kind of doing like a cyclone kind of thing, and causing damage. And when people get hit, and the more people he hits, the longer he goes on. So in other words, like normally it would just go on for about, let's say 5 seconds, where he just kind of starts spinning faster. But if he keeps hitting people, he'll just keep going and going and going and going. I want to give it like a maximum, let's say about like 20 seconds. That might be a little bit long, but I feel like that's a good number, maybe 25. Again, that might be super long. I'd have to like time that out of being like, okay, how would this work? But again, we're just here for fun concepts, and I just like to imagine him just like swinging this huge wrecking ball around, just spinning, and going after people. I think that'd be super funny. And as for her cosmetic, he has like, anytime I ever looked at like concepts of him, he's always in like a prisoner uniform. I don't know if that's because he's always just busting out of prison and he's like, okay, back to the grind. And that's it. And that's just kind of like his character. I don't really know, but I just feel like it'd fit, you know? Klurt, aka the Super Skrull, not Skull. That'd be super cool though, the Super Skull. It's probably a thing. Anyways, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but he was like the first Super Skrull in comics. He can only copy the Fantastic Four, since back in the day that's all they fought. But for now, I'm just gonna call him Kurt, because that's a lot better than KL''RT, which is probably like Klurt or something like that. I just much prefer Kurt. So he's Kurt now, not Kurt Connors. We'll get to him in a future video, but just Kurt, because it's 10 times easier to pronounce. And just kind of doing a brief little like, okay, here's a little disclaimer for him. I'm gonna try and combine the Fantastic Four members' powers and make it so they're different from each other, but you can still kind of see that thing of like, oh, he's using their abilities. So for like his basic attack, charging flame punch, which is slow but locks on enemies, similar to Iron Fist, but it's like his arm turns into the Thing's arm, but it's like you can see fire through the cracks and he just punches at people. And for his first ability, I want this to be a projectile where he's essentially just like grabbing parts of the like rock of his arm and flinging them on that are on fire as enemies, and if it hits, it has an AoE of fire wherever it lands. So it kind of works like Johnny's like throwing ability, except it causes a lot of damage on impact and leaves just one little spot of fire, as compared to Johnny's where you can link them up. As for his second ability, I want Kurt's arms like stretch out with the Thing's fists on the end, and then smashes the ground, stunning enemies at a distance. So it kind of like stretches out, reaches up, slams down, and stuns them for a little bit. So, you know, I think that'd just be cool, where he's like, boo. Again, I'm doing the motions, but you can't see me right now. And as for his ultimate, he pulls in nearby enemies, similar to how like Mr. Fantastic does, where you can kind of like pull people towards him, or, well, I guess he goes towards people, but you know what I'm trying to say. And he stretches his arms up with his hands turning into flaming fists and smashes the ground, and both damages enemies he brought in and makes a sphere of fire around his position. So I don't know how better to describe it. He pulls people in, reaches his fists up, slams them into the ground, slightly stunning people and causing a ring of fire around him for a little bit. I don't know. Again, I'm going for fun factor, not really usability. And as for a cosmetic, I want to give him his Guardians of the Galaxy look. Because if you don't know, at least later on in comics, again, I didn't really look into it, I just kind of looked like, oh, this character, and in modern comics. And he's a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy now, which sounds cool. And I looked at the costume, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I was like, it fits. The Juggernaut, aka Kane Marco. This is gonna be our last one for this video because it's already starting to drag on, and this is like the big Vanguards I really want to go through. So, yeah. As for his basic attack, and well, actually, I completely forgot. I was gonna talk about why I want him in the game, and I don't know.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
And that's about it. That's all you need to know. As for his basic attack, it's strong but slow punches to have slight knockback. Not too much, but it's enough where it's like, oh geez, he's slightly pushing me. He's pushing me back, guys. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that'd be fun. His first ability, I want it similar to the Thing's Yancey Street Charge, which is one where you just start to running. However, unlike that one where you run and you kind of stay the same speed the entire time, the big thing with the Juggernaut is once he starts moving, he can't stop. He has like a momentum ability. So he starts off relatively slow, but he slowly speeds up the longer it goes on, and it causes damage and knockback to any people he hits, and as the faster he gets, the more damage and more knockback he gets. But as he gets faster, it gets a lot harder to control, and then he has to stop for a duration and just kind of like stand there for a little bit. So you are open for a little bit. As for his second ability, I want to give Juggernaut a shield to himself, similar to how like Magneto's metal bulwark? Is that how you pronounce that? But the only thing is he can only apply it to himself. So I guess kind of like the Hulk and Magneto's, except it's only for him. He can't like, oh, I give you a shield, friend, or Hulk where it's just like people within a vicinity. This one, it's only Juggernaut. And as for his ultimate, I want to give Juggernaut a boost of health with a little bit, anything that like goes over his maximum, it gives him a little bit of bonus health. And his basic attacks not only hit harder, but slowly speeds up after time. Because once again, his big thing is momentum, so it's like his normal basic attack, but the longer you hold it, and the more people he hits, the faster he gets. Again, I think it's just super cool. And as for his cosmetic, I want it to be his Juggernaut 3 suit. I'll put it up on screen right now, if I'm remembering. It's on the cover art of a Juggernaut comic, clearly. But he has like some glowing bits. I believe he's holding up like the weights thing, similar to the Lady of Justice statue. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got for Juggernaut. And that's wrapping up this first video of Marvel Rival characters. I'll be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing yet, and I don't know. I'm really looking forward to talking more about these. Like I said, I have 3 more parts, and the 4th one is not so much characters, but just get into some like cosmetics I'd like to see, because I don't think I have any characters. Well, I'm in my script right now. Nope, it's literally just like cosmetics I want to see, and that one I'll add in a little bit of like sketches and just drawings of what these characters could look like. So look forward to those, I guess. And so yeah, see ya.